Hello, Michigan, and welcome to my Fireside chat on public education. You can find more on my platform at www.kurland4michigan.com/education. For those of you unaware, I currently serve on the Redford Union School Board. This is the 6th year of my 6-year term, and I've spent 3 years as its president. I am the product of a fantastic public education. I went to Southfield Public Schools, West Bloomfield Public Schools. I attended Michigan State, got my associate's degree from Schoolcraft College, and got my bachelor's in political science from Wayne State University. I have many public school teachers in my family, and public education has always been a value instilled in me. We currently have a crisis of public education here in Michigan. We have a current crisis of a sub shortage, which is going to soon turn into a crisis of a shortage of teachers. I believe it is important to understand the history of anything when we talk about issues. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of public education in Michigan and how we got to where we are now, and then how we can solve them. Between the 1993-94 school year and the 1994-95 school year, the financing and fiscal autonomy of public schools in Michigan changed radically. There were 3 different types of changes that happened. First was that the system became highly centralized at the state level, that local property taxes were sharply reduced, and our state taxes then increased to attempt to make up that difference, and spending per pupil was substantially increased in districts where it had been the lowest, and then remained unchanged from these other levels in other districts. Between 1972 and 1993, Michigan voters actually rejected 12 different statewide ballot proposals that would have reduced our property taxes as a source of school finance. In 1993, there was a proposal that was supported by then Governor John Engler to replace reduced property taxes by increased income taxes. It was overwhelmingly popular, but received only 45% of the vote. Our now U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow introduced an amendment to entirely eliminate the property tax as a source of local school finance on July 20th, 1993. At the time, it was interpreted that this move was an attempt to show that it was silly to cut taxes without specifying new revenues for schools, but that backfired, and the Senate passed that amended bill the same day. The House then did so, and then the governor signed the bill. In one day, Michigan eliminated $6.5 billion in school taxes for the 1994-1995 school year. Our local school districts were stripped of the only revenue source under their own control, and the state had put nothing else in its place. Voters then, in March of 1994, passed Proposal A, one of 2 options to centralize school finance decisions meant to increase spending per pupil in these districts that had previously spent the least. Proposal A increased our sales and use tax and decreased slightly our personal income taxes. It also increased the cigarette tax. Proposal A ended up increasing the amount of local school bonding and higher debt mills. Increased local school bonding not only resulted in higher debt mills, but also increased borrowing from the school bond loan program. This is a program that provides loans to school districts that need funds to pay debt service obligations. Before Proposal A, highest spending districts outspent lowest spending districts almost 3 times per pupil, which changed to a difference of less than twice per pupil 10 years later. The number of students attending charter schools increased dramatically in that same time frame. So let's move on to where we are now and the realities of public education currently here in Michigan. Our high school graduation rate is under 80%. The number of teachers we have statewide has been dropping consistently since 2012. Michigan students attending a local community college only have a success rate after 2 years of less than 25%. And for that same 2-year degree, after 6 years, that success rate is barely 40%. Our student success rate at a public university after 4 years is less than 50%. And those students that continue college through 7 years is still less than 75% success. While we've had districts who had deficits for 3 consecutive years drop and general fund balances increase, our instructional expenditure per pupil has only increased by $10 statewide. Part of this issue is because when school districts in deficit or school districts that are having financial hardships have to make tough decisions when it comes to fixing their finances, oftentimes these cuts come on the backs of their teachers who take massive pay cuts in order for districts to survive. And oftentimes this also comes at the expense of students. Many school districts have foregone having curriculum directors or other administrative staff that make sure that there's comprehensive curriculum being taught K through 12. And many schools also have not been able to purchase new curriculum or bring new technology into the classrooms. Over the years, we have seen an increase in children attending early childhood schools. It is important that we give this additional early schooling advantage to all children because it only benefits them in their learning in the future. An important note when we look at these numbers is the number of homeless children has been increasing over the past few years. This is a huge problem that we must address sooner rather than later so these numbers do not continue to increase. Michigan currently ranks 37th in 8th grade math and 41st in 4th grade reading. Performance for all of our students has declined since 2013, and we are only trending in the wrong direction. Michigan has been failing our minority students for far too long. For our African American students, we have failed them completely, and we are now ranked 50th in their achievement. The tuition waiver for our Native American students has been sorely underfunded for far too long. Detroit Public Schools has continued to fall behind the rest of the country and now ranks as the lowest performing large urban district in the country in 4th and 8th grade reading and math for all students. In the example of Holland Public Schools, in the 2 decades since Michigan adopted school choice, Holland's white enrollment has plummeted 60%, with 2,100 fewer white students. Tens of thousands of parents across Michigan are using our state's School of Choice program to move their students out of their resident districts and into ones that are more segregated. In the same example of Holland Public Schools, 70% of their students are eligible for a free or reduced price lunch, more than double the district's poverty rate when choice began. In the nearby Zeeland Public Schools, it is a 77% white district. While parents may not be making the decision simply based on race, it is creating a huge disparity in the kind of education we are giving our children, and we are denying our children the ability to attend racially integrated schools. Segregation in Michigan schools has been increasing over the same time period. This is a problem that should stay in the 1950s, not a problem that we should have to be addressing in 2018. In the 2009-2010 school year, roughly 64% of choice students across the state moved to a less diverse district. That rate is now approaching 70%. The number of school districts statewide where fewer than half the students are white rose from 38 a decade ago to 55 last year. The number of charter schools where students of color are in the majority went from 119 in 2005 to 182 last year. As white students use choice to transfer to districts or charters with even higher white enrollment numbers, African American students are using the same law to attend predominantly black charter schools. Statewide, more than 93% of the 75,000 African American students in Michigan attending a charter school last year were in a majority minority charter school. Education researchers say disadvantaged minority students benefit academically and socially from a more integrated education environment, and integration helps all students. We cannot have a conversation about public education in Michigan without acknowledging this issue of segregation, racial disparity, low income students, and income inequality rampant in our state. There are 13 schools in Michigan where 100% of the students are white. Another 291 had a minority enrollment that was 5% or less of the student population. A third of Michigan's African American students attend a school where the student body is 95% Black. There are 21 schools where 100% of the students are African American. The graduation rate for Black students in the class of 2013 in Michigan was 61%, compared to 71% for Black students nationwide, 77% for students in Michigan, and 81% for all students nationwide. Just 10% of African Americans were proficient or above proficient in fourth grade math, 9% in fourth grade reading, 5% in eighth grade math, and 9% in eighth grade reading. African American students make up nearly 20% of the population of our students. We are failing nearly 20% of our total student body population. We must do more. We must do better, and we must put the needs of our children first. Public education is key to our future economy. Public education is key to our state's future. So let's talk about the things that need to be done to fix public education and what a Green New Deal looks like for Michigan. The Michigan Department of Education, the State Board of Education, and many other Michiganders came together and worked on a strategic plan to make Michigan a top 10 education state in the next 10 years. This is a comprehensive start on information that will help make Michigan a better state for public education. One of the visions is to support our learners, and the major issue in terms of aligning curriculum is a very important component to what a Green New Deal will look like in Michigan. This chart on learner-centered supports is very important, especially when speaking to aligning curriculum. One of the things that we must support for all school districts across Michigan is the funding for a curriculum director. Having one person across an entire school district that's ensuring that there's an aligned curriculum also helps with some of these other points of deeper learning, personalized learning, differentiated supports, and additional feedback. The way we cut public education funds directly affects our teachers, oftentimes in their salaries, but most often in professional development. Effective public educators must be continually learning and growing and understanding the changes in public education that they need to properly teach their students. The state must put money into professional development for our teachers to ensure that they can properly educate our children. Strategic partnerships. The point of public education is to teach our children how to be successful adults. Ensuring that there are community services in schools to help parents be able to help their children at home. Ensuring that school districts have the ability to create partnerships with local businesses, trades, and other small businesses to help the school district itself is important. Making sure our children have the ability to attend college if they want to, or attend a trade school, or even just be able to get a good paying job outside of high school is a key component to how we provide public education. Together, we can make a difference. We can fix these issues of our public education and have a good future for Michigan's children. If you are considering running for office, I would love to help you do so. In order to be a successful governor, I need Greens in the legislature to help us make policies that will fix our public education system. If you are interested in running, please contact the Green Party of Michigan or contact my campaign. I need your help to be successful and to be competitive. I need 4,167 people to donate $18 to reach the threshold to achieve state matching funds. You can donate to my campaign at www.kurland4michigan.com/donate. Thank you for taking the time to watch my fireside chat. Have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night.